Hello, YouTube. So yeah, it's been a couple months, so I thought I'd make another portrait video, um, because that's how monitors are shaped. No, I'm filming on my cell phone because it's really lovely outside and it's October and I'm not going to get very many more of these, so I really wanted to just enjoy the outside for a little bit. So I'm sitting on my porch swing, and when I film outside on my porch swing in landscape, you get a lot of that tree and my neighbor's house, but not a lot of me. So, or at least it's framed weird. Um, so I just thought I'd catch you up a little bit. Um, Back in August, I was just about to turn 40, so I did that. That happened. I'm now 40. And I was getting ready to go to Southern Illinois for a family reunion. It's my mother's family, so they're all a couple hundred miles south, and my mom died when I was almost 4, so there's a lot of reasons that, I don't see them very often. But starting in the early 90s, they started having an annual reunion, and I think we got invited in like the second or third year. So it was like 93, 94, something like that. And we went every year until like 7 years ago. I stopped going because I had already started transitioning, but I had not come out to any of them. And there comes a point in Illinois when, as you head south, where you leave, sort of the north and you start reaching the northern south, you know? Um, Illinois is a northern state. Like, don't get me wrong, it's just rural. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Sorry for the jiggle. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different sort of sensibility. And, most of my family is fairly religious and pretty old school. And I never really knew how they were going to handle it because in 2001, before my daughter was born, I sent a big letter out to my whole family coming out as transgender, and saying, basically more like cross-dresser stuff, but, I used transgender as a term, that I preferred. But there's a lot that I didn't understand about myself then. And, I sort of sent this big, huge letter and then climbed back into the closet just to make sure that, I didn't inconvenience anyone, because I am codependent and have a tendency to sublimate my own needs in order to provide the people that I care about what I think it is that they want me to do and be. Even if they don't ask me for that specific thing, I have a tendency to assume that people want me to do something or be something other than what I was already going to do or be. So that's a me problem, and one that has had no impact on any of my other relationships throughout my whole life, which is a big lie. But I'll get to that. So anyway, so I sent out this big email, or this big letter, and my grandfather, my mother's dad, next time I saw him, said, "I got your letter," and I said, "Okay," and he said, "You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to send that." And I said, "Well, no, I really did. I needed to tell people who I am." And he goes, "No, you really didn't need to send that." And that was sort of the last we ever spoke of it. So, so that sort of primed me for his family, just to believe that his family wasn't going to accept me. And, the chances are that 20 years ago or 17 years ago, they wouldn't have, but people change, times change, things change. And so 7, 8 years ago, let's see, my divorce was final 8 years ago. So I think that was probably the last one I went to. Yeah, it would have been 2010, I think. So I guess 8 years. I had not gone, which broke a pretty long streak, Um, But, I just didn't really know how to um, be me and have those conversations, because those are really hard conversations to have when you're someone who is fundamentally, broken, like me. No, not broken, but I have a really hard time disappointing people or thinking that I'm going to disappoint people. Um, and so, I don't want to be a disappointment, and I didn't want to be rejected. Um, So I just avoided it, because avoidance is a terrific coping strategy, because all of your problems go away if you just ignore them long enough. That's another lie. Anyway, so my aunt, my great aunt, my mom's aunt, had friended me on Facebook a couple years ago. And so, there are people who were going to be at that reunion who were already aware. Um, and my mom has two sisters and a brother. One of her sisters and her brother are from a second marriage, so my mom wasn't as close with them as she was with my other aunt. Um, so I got to see her at the reunion, which was really nice. I never get to see her enough. Um, but I've seen her once a year for the last few years, or a couple times a year for the last few years. So, it's not like it was a secret. It's just not something that anybody had a conversation about with me. But my great aunt had friended me on Facebook and made it very clear to me this year in various comments and on posts on my wall and stuff that she wanted me to come down. So, we made an extra effort. People are getting older, so, I don't know how many more of these she'll get to host. So we went. And it was a pretty good time. One of my daughters had something in the morning, so we couldn't leave as early as I'd wanted to. It was scheduled to run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because they're farm people, so if it's 7 a.m., everyone's late. I don't know. I wasn't going to make it there at 7 a.m. But, so we left as soon as we could. We headed down, and we got there around 3:30 or 4. And most everybody was packing up and heading out. So I got to sort of, hey, bye, as people left. But I got to visit with my aunt and my great aunt, and my brother and his family stuck around, and there were some other people who stuck around too. So we got to sit around and talk for a while. And I got to hear some stories about my mom that I hadn't heard, and some more information about sort of, not the circumstances of her death, but sort of what the circumstances were afterward, which was really interesting. And, because she died when I was so young, almost all that I know about her is from other people's stories. So it's always nice to hear more stuff that I have never heard, even if it's not fun stuff to hear, So, but I mean, we had all their conversations too, and it was really nice, and it was nice to be accepted and, not rejected by my family and called a disappointment, because that's not something I cope well with, but I didn't have to deal with it. And so, of course, the lesson here is confront your problems when they're smaller problems and they don't become big problems that you then have to deal with later on. But that's a lesson that I'll keep learning, because it's a lesson I keep not learning. So that happened. I just hit 4 months at work, so that's been pretty good. I'm really integrating well with the team. I got to go to their LGBTQ groups all hands meeting and happy hour, and met a couple people, and that was really cool. Had a lot of fun, drank too much. Let's see. Oh, and my relationship ended. So that was a long time coming, but it, finally was final. And she moved out, and so now it's just me in the house every other week because I have my kids the other weeks. Um, but it's only been the last I don't know, it's been less than a month. So my kids have been here more than they've not. I've not really had a whole lot of time that's just been me by myself, or me and the dog. Um, so I'm having to adjust to that, and it's not easy, but I like me generally, and so I like being around me generally, which is a good thing, I think. Um, so but there's a process that I'm dealing with, and I'm having to grapple with all the things that I did that caused it to not succeed in the way that I wanted it to, the relationship. Um, and keep doing the work to sort of deconstruct the parts of um, the parts of myself, my personality, my coping mechanisms that are actually causing damage to me or my relationships. And codependency is one of them, and it's not uncommon for kids um, who have a parent die. Like I'm the oldest of 4 kids, but my mom only had me and my brother, so it was me, my brother, and my dad growing up, and I'm the older one, so I was always sort of taking care of everyone. Um, Dad worked all the time. He had a temper. Um, so I sort of took responsibility for making sure that, like, my brother and I were managing ourselves enough that he didn't get upset, and that we could take care of ourselves, and that he wasn't, solely responsible for all of it. They always told me I was like a little adult, and that's not fun, but some of that came because my dad was mourning his wife, and at 25 he was a widower and had 2 kids to raise on his own, and didn't have a lot of emotional coping skills himself. So it creates a sort of environment where codependency breeds very well, or grows very well. So that's never impacted any of my relationships. It's great. It's been a complicating factor in both my marriage and this most recent relationship, which are the 2 biggest relationships I've ever had. Certainly the 2 longest relationships I've ever had. And it's not like my own imperfection that caused the relationship to fail, despite my subconscious telling me that that's exactly what happened. But so I'm trying to do the work, and I'll be getting back into therapy soon. But I don't want to be a disappointment to people, and that's really difficult to feel when you're in a relationship with somebody that you really care about. And I have a tendency to try to be whoever I think they want me to be. That makes things really hard. So this is the adjustment that I'm going through. Thankfully, it's the beginning of the television series, so I can avoid all of those problems and bury my head in hours and hours of television every week, so that I don't have to acknowledge that I have problems. Yeah, that's bad. So anyway, so that's what's going on there. Next week I fly to New York to have my first pre-surgical appointment. Like, this is the actual pre-surgery appointment, 4 months out from my actual surgery. Like, so this is where we are. We're 4 months away. Since my last video, I got my name officially changed. So that has been a nightmare. Like, it's actually fine, but like, there's 3,000 accounts that I have to update my name on still. So that's fun. And I keep forgetting. Like, I keep coming across something else that needs to be done too, but whatever, I'm working on it. It's a process, okay? Anyway, so I have that done. I have filed for my passport, and it's been received and it's being processed. So that went in the end of September, when my new birth certificate came in. So now, according to the state of Illinois, I am a young girl who was born in 1978, named Brin, and or I was a young girl, sort of middle-aged lady now, or woman, lady. I don't know that I'm not particularly ladylike, but whatever. Yeah, so that's happening. So I've got like surgery stuff coming up, and like documentation stuff is happening, and I hope that Mike Pompeo just is looking the other way when my application comes across the desk. So because fuck him. Let's see. And I just started last Saturday, and then this coming Saturday is training for this local youth outreach group for LGBTQIA kids, youth. And so what happened was, like, I sort of had in the back of my mind that I wanted to create some kind of support organization for trans youth, because it's a really scary time to be trans right now, and it's super scary to be trans and young right now, So in my head, like, there would be like a youth group option where they could, some like support. There would be like a parents group for parents of trans kids to get together and meet, and like something else. Well, I found out there's an organization that's been here for 20 years, 25 years. I don't know, almost 25 years. That's been in the area that I never knew about. And so I started looking to see what was already here, and I found this group, and there is part of this group that's specifically for trans kids, and so I volunteered. I submitted my application, and it's 3 8-hour training sessions. I had the first one this past Saturday. I have the second one in a couple of days, and then the third one is supposed to be the Saturday after, but it's actually a Trans Tech 2018 Summit in Chicago, October 20th. So I will be doing that instead. So I'll have to take my third training in the spring when they do that. The Trans Tech Summit should be pretty cool. Trans Tech Social is an organization that I really, really respect. Angelica Ross of TV's Pose, she plays Miss Candy on Pose, created Trans Tech 3 or 4 years ago, I think. Maybe even longer than that. And as an organization, what they do is they provide training and mentorship and connections, networking for young trans people. Specifically, generally, I think the stronger focus is on trans people of color and impoverished and houseless trans people too. But like, they go through this training program to learn web development and all of this like tech support and stuff like that, and then they have an opportunity to network for internships and for like jobs to like give them this like leapfrog economically, to go from working minimum wage to having the option to working in IT, which is a pretty lucrative jump. So hopefully, that's something that continues. But they're having a summit on the 20th, so I'll be going to that. So if you're going to be there, look for me, say hi. If you never heard of it, look into it, see if you could come. Other than that, I'm pushing 20 minutes now, so that's been a lot in 2 months, and if you made it this far, God bless you. But I am going to end it now. But please leave me a comment, send me a message, find me on Twitter. I'm at Brinconvenient almost everywhere. And see if you can find me, and let me know what you want me to talk about. I will gladly answer questions, give advice, tell you more of my problems and failures. I'll be glad to do that. Anyway, that's it for me. Take care, YouTube. Love you. Bye.